Oh. You get too loud or too soft. I can't get that happy medium. My name's Jenny Sprague. Welcome to Muskegon Rotary. I'm privileged to serve as your president for this Rotary year. This February, the Rotary Foundation theme is Peace and Conflict Prevention and Resolution. Our program today will be presented on Restorative Pathways, Lessons from Rwanda. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a reflection from Emily Morgenstern. We will recite the four-way test at the end of the meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Emily?
Good afternoon. If you're like me, you weren't too happy to wake up and see that white stuff on the ground, but we are in Michigan and it is February. Although it may be, I know, we got a little glimpse of spring a couple weeks ago. Although it may be an inconvenience, I feel like we still all have a lot to be grateful for, so I'd just like us all to take a few moments and think of one thing that you are grateful for today and one thing that you are looking forward to tomorrow. And as we are still in winter, and I know spring is not as close as we want it to be, I think winter is just an important time for that self-reflection. So if you find yourself like me, rushing to work, being late because of the snow, just try and take a few moments to be grateful for everything that we do have.
Thank you, Emily. That was a very timely reminder, even if my driveway is still full of snow. So. Sit down, enjoy your meal. We will resume the meeting at 12:20. I got a thumbs up on that one, so thank you for that, Kelly. Well, I hope you enjoyed your fellowship moment, and we're ready to resume our meeting. Our foundation moment today, I'm going to share with you The Art of War. It's not the ancient treatise by the 5th century BC Chinese military strategist and philosopher Sun Tzu, but a painting that's well known to everyone and a poem inspired by the bombing of a Spanish city during the Spanish Civil War. Before you is one of Pablo Picasso's most famous works, Guernica. It is certainly his most powerful political statement, painted as an immediate reaction to the Nazis' casual, devastating bombing on the Basque town of Guernica during the Spanish Civil War. It shows the tragedies of war and the suffering it inflicts upon individuals, particularly innocent civilians. This work has gained a monumental status, becoming a perpetual reminder of the tragedies of war and an anti-war symbol and an embodiment of peace. This is the Guernica, Guernica, now I'm gonna get it, there we go, is blue, black, and white. It is 11 feet tall, 25.6 feet wide. It's a mural-sized canvas painted in oil, and this painting can now be seen in the Reina Sofia Museum in Madrid. It is inspired, besides the bombing, inspired, of course, this very famous painting, but it also inspired a poem called Victory at Guernica by Paul Eluard. It was written in 1937. Quiet world of rundown homes, of nights and fields, good faces ready for the fire, faces ready for full speed, for refusing the night, for injuries, for impacts, faces ready for anything. Here comes the void to fix you. Your death's going to be an example. The death overthrown heart. They've made you pay in bread, sky, earth, water, sleep, and the misery of your life. They say they want good intelligence. They ration the strong, judge the mad, make charity divide one penny. They salute dead bodies. They barricade themselves with niceties. They persevere. They exaggerate. They are not of our world. Women, children have the same treasure of spring green leaves and pure milk and of legacy in their clear eyes. Women, children have the same treasure in the eyes. Some men have defended it, if they could. Women, children have the same pink roses in the eyes. Each one lets out its blood. Fear and courage to live and to die, death so difficult and so easy. Those for whom this treasure was sung, those for whom this treasure was gashed, those who despair enrages the desolate flames of hope. Let's crack open together the last bud of the future. Outcast the death, the soil, and the disgust of our enemies has the dull color of night. We will defeat it. So a little something to think about today. And now we are going to introduce our guests. So any visiting Rotarians or Muskegon Rotary members, if you could please come forward with your guests, and we will be happy to welcome them. Oops. Alan's is going to be introducing Anna.
I want you to step on the red mark.
I'm Alan Albert. I'm related to Anna. Hi. Okay. Anna is not only my wife and mother of my children, but she is also the chair of the Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies in Muskegon, and I think many of you know her. So welcome, Anna.
All right. You guys come on over. I'm not Marty, but I'm going to give it a shot. Okay, who's in the house today are the Montague Wildcats! Woo! As a former Wildcat myself, Rob Patton, is here to introduce two of the seniors from Montague.
Thank you, Amy, and good afternoon, Rotarians. We always enjoy being invited and attending the luncheon. Many Montague students were upset we had school today, but we're glad to be here. And exciting times at Montague right now. We're in the middle of our long winter sports season, starting with getting ready for our spring production of Clue this year will be our drama production. And in a couple weeks, FFA students will be going to the state convention. And both of my seniors here today are part of FFA as well as many other things, and I'll let them introduce themselves, but thank you for having us.
Hi everyone, I'm Anna Waller. Like they said, I'm a Montague student I'm a Montague High School student, that's a senior. I am part of FFA. Within my FFA chapter, I am the secretary, and then on the regional level, I am also the treasurer for the Region 5 FFA chapter. Like he mentioned, we're going to state in 2 weeks, I think it is. There I will be competing in a leadership contest. I will also be receiving a state winner award in a proficiency work-related award, which is nursery operations. And then I will also be presenting a presentation for National Chapter Award. And then I will also be getting recognized for a scholarship. And then I'm also part of NHS. I'm a secretary for our chapter. I'm involved in 4-H. I live on a farm, so I'm involved in 4-H. I'm the Oceana County 4-H ambassador, and right now I show steers. I've been on our Montague High School varsity soccer team for all 4 years of high school, and I'm also part of the White Lake Breakers travel soccer team as well. I think that's it. Oh, my future plans. I'm going to MCC on the scholarship for my first 2 years. Yeah. And then after those 2 years, I will be attending MSU, and and there I will be studying agricultural education.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Brown. I'm also a senior at Montague, and I'm currently serving as our class's senior class president. I'm also involved in FFA, and I serve as our chapter's president as well. I'll be going to state convention to compete in the parliamentary procedure contest, as well as receive a state winner proficiency in landscape management. I also am involved in NHS, and I'm serving as our chapter's vice president. I'm also in athletics. I've served on the football team all years except for this year because I had a injury, but otherwise I would have. And then I'm on the bowling team and the track and field team. What else? Next year, I plan on pursuing a degree in engineering, likely at either Michigan Tech, University of Michigan, or MIT. So those are my schools. Thank you.
I know. Yes, thank you for joining us today. Now, how many of you feel really humbled, you know? Our future is in good hands. We will begin next with our program. Alan Alpert is going to introduce our speaker for the day, Carl Wilkins. And Alan, please come to the podium here.
We have a truly unique program today. I talked to Melissa Horton, and we are doing just a very short introduction. Carl Wilkins has been in Muskegon before. I thought it was 10 years ago, much longer. He had been part of a witness to the Rwanda genocide. And then several years ago, he came back and talked about parts of reconciliation, and he's going to go beyond that. That's not quite that short. As a humanitarian and worker, Carl Wilkins was one of 2 Americans who refused to leave Rwanda when thousands of expatriates and UN soldiers fled the country in the 1994 Rwanda genocide against the Tutsis when it was gaining deadly momentum. Working together with Rwanda colleagues, they brought food, water, and medicine to orphans trapped around Kigali. These days, Carl travels around the globe using the transformative process of storytelling to explore how restorative practices can safely guide us through the challenges of polarization and harmful conflict. He just came from Fruitport High School. He will be speaking tonight at the Stir Center at 6:30. It's sponsored by the Center for Holocaust and Jewish Studies and the Center for Experiential Learning. Carl, if you can join us.
Thanks so much, Alan, and nice to be with you today. I was just with a group of high school students, and way to go, our president twice, and student body, and FAA, and steers. I was just picturing that young lady organizing those steers, huh? Yeah. I'm actually, if I do well, I've got a cow picture from Rwanda I want to show you before we're done, okay? The farmers of Rwanda. But thank you. Thanks for your time here today. I am often challenged to tell this story in a way that not just makes sense, because it's hard to understand how neighbors can turn on neighbors, but in a way that is relevant to our life today, because we all, you know it better than many people, how connected we are globally. And so I like to start with some of my pictures here, not just with genocide, because it's hard to overcome a bad reputation. I'm gonna try to do something here in 20 minutes. So if I'm talking, if somebody go like this if I'm talking too fast. Can I ask you to do that? Just, yeah, slow it down, guy. Okay, I could use that. I want to give you the best kind of context that I can for the restorative journey in Rwanda. So I'm going to kind of click through here a little bit fast, and maybe by some people's way, but I'll try to keep reasonable here. Rwanda is known for so many different things now. It used to be just genocide, if you know it. Well, okay, some of you are here, so before '94, you remember Rwanda was known for gorillas, huh? Gorilla in the Mist and Dian Fossey, that movie, and then, of course, this horrific time of the genocide. But now Rwanda is known for gender equality. It's known for, progressive in terms of the environment. A third of every decision, it's in their constitution, a third of every decision-making group has to be women, minimum. So their parliament is over 60% women. I could go off, but I'm trying to be concise on what our government would look like if we had 60%. But the restorative journey that Rwanda is on is super, super exciting journey. And I want to get to telling the story of Maria, who survived. And Philbert, I'll just tell you right up front, I'm not trying to shock anybody or anything, but Philbert was in the gang who took her husband and son's life. And to me, I would think it's hard to live with that grief, much less stand next to the guy. But Maria has so reinvented this man in her mind, and I want to get into that with you. I'm hoping we'll even get into a little neuroplasticity. We moved there in 1990. You can tell our family really young. It was a great place to raise children. I was working with the people, building schools. I actually dug this picture out last night. We're setting up a grinding mill at a clinic to encourage moms to come with the baby on their back, get vaccinated, get your grain ground instead of pounding it by hand at home, and maybe a class on mother-child health care. Super rewarding work for the first 4 years, but we also had a war happening that started 6 months after we got there. And the war is going to end, and we'll think we've got peace, and we're all so eager for this peace. But this horrific thing that we now call the genocide, against the Tutsi will happen in 3 months. More than 1 million people will be killed. Now, the questions I want to answer, well, I've tried to answer the first one. Why were we there? We were doing humanitarian work, The next question might be, what's genocide, huh? What really, you know that technically, and some of you are scholars, of perhaps Holocaust and genocide and human rights. But let me try to explain it perhaps just a little differently. April 6, 1994, the president's plane will be shot down. We heard the explosion in our house. A small group of extremists will use this event to launch a coup, and I'll come back to this picture in a minute. But these are the architects of the genocide. And I think it's important for us to recognize the plane shot down did not begin a genocide. The plane shot down was an event that the extremists used to launch their coup. And once they took over, their first job, once somebody gets into Washington, no, don't say that, Carl. Sometimes we've seen in the past, some of our history, we've seen when as soon as somebody takes office, their job is to discredit or get rid of the opposition. Anybody who's in their way. And so they will Thursday in broad daylight kill the prime minister, the lady there in your top right corner. The 10 Belgian UN soldiers who were supposed to be guarding her will be not just killed, but they'll be chopped into pieces to send a very strong message to the UN, who had already sent 2,500 UN soldiers. You are not welcome here. The world had said, you've been at war for 3 years and now you're building peace? Yeah, we're with you. But unfortunately, it'll be a false sense of security that will cost the lives of thousands of Rwandans instead of being peace. Well, their orders were to be observers, but look at how they're dressed with their armored personnel carriers. They look more like peacekeepers than observers, and that's what people tended to believe and expect. And I say they cost the lives of thousands because I think thousands would have fled as they read the vibe. They heard the radio. They're called cockroaches and snakes, and they're talking about their extermination. And when the husband or the wife said to each other, I think it's time to go, And the other one said, no, 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 the UN is here, we'll be okay. That's when the dark, tragic story, and we could give you more details. That same night, Thursday night, a gang comes to our gate. Now, oh yeah, I said genocide. I actually just wrote I've used that picture for a long time, but last night in my room I said, I gotta put this in writing. Because we often think this is something that's ethnic, this is rooted in one tribe hating another tribe. It is not. They married each other more than they hated each other, okay? So the genocide does not begin, it does not originate in the minds of ordinary people. This is not years of conflict that eventually explode into genocide. Instead, the origins of the genocide are in the minds of these men and women, greedy to share power and incredibly gifted at manipulating people to actually see the enemy in their neighbor. Now, I try to stay kind of dialed back at times because I do get passionate about that. I mean, the genocide could have been prevented, and I witnessed all of this, and I saw what led up to it, and I saw what happened during the genocide. And when I started traveling 20 years ago to schools, I'm like, how can I talk about this with students? Where do we begin? And I came up with this idea, you know, and one of the reasons I haven't changed it in 20 years is because it still kind of punches me in the gut. I still at times am tempted to think of solving a problem, not by killing anybody, but just if I didn't have to deal with somebody, huh? And I can't wait until I don't have to, you know, they don't work here anymore, or we're not, you know, in the same business. But this idea of solving a problem by exclusion is always temporary at best, and it's genocide at worst. So here's where I didn't know if I'm going a little too far. Have you seen this happen? Have you seen good men and women, generous men and women, manipulated to a place where they see the enemy in their neighbor? It will happen incredibly fast. I'm not going to take time to go over the history with you, unless in the couple minutes for question and answers you'd like to. I'll just simply say the Belgian colonizers partnered with the Tutsis. They found a Tutsi king, and they thought the Tutsis were superior. And that kind of discrimination is going to have backlash in years to come. When independence comes, many of the Tutsi people will suffer the backlash of the favoritism they got from the Belgians. They'll flee. They'll not be allowed back 10, 20 years. Finally, in 90, we'll have that war. And that RPF that you see at the bottom of that line right there, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, is led by a refugee boy, a 4-year-old kid that fled the country when he was 4. He's the president of Rwanda today. And we'll talk just a little more about that. But we thought we would have peace in 93, but no, we have this horrible thing. The ID card, I won't get into all of the details for now on that. Thursday night, a gang comes to our gate. And if it wasn't for these neighbor ladies courageously coming and arguing, we don't even know they're there. We're putting our kids to bed in the hallway. We want as many brick walls between them and the bullets flying outside as we can have. And so the hallway offers us the best protection for the kids for the night. But outside, these ladies come out of their simple little mud brick homes, and they stand up and they start arguing for our family. This part that often just gets me, because I don't know how to tell this story. When somebody puts their life on the line for you. And you see, you had to have been with, I'm going to make a decision, my wife and I, to stay, which even me, the 66-year-old Carl, asked the 36-year-old Carl, what were you thinking, you know, back then? But you have to have been with us. When my wife and I got married, and we're in Zimbabwe 6 weeks after getting married, and our daughters are born there, the hospitality, the kindness, the mothers all came around in the community. My wife, when our first child was born, they gave her another name, which was beautiful, Sitokozili. They gave her great advice. They said, now that you have a child, you don't need your husband anymore. And you just had to understand the kindness, the generosity. We were in Zambia as well, and then the 4 years in Rwanda. They gave us foreigners so much privilege. And we thought now might be a chance. But before we'd even have a chance to use that privilege, these neighbor ladies stand up for us. And I've tried to figure out how do they do it, huh? And I've started looking at the brain. Some of you might be familiar with Dan Siegel. He's the one that coined this phrase, upstairs brain, downstairs brain, huh? The prefrontal cortex, the logical part of our brain. When we're in the fight-flight mode, it's kind of like the prefrontal is offline. I mean, not completely, depending how deep we are in that downstairs brain. It's as if these neighbor ladies had to get this gang who, you know, arguably was deep in their downstairs brain in the fight. They got to get them out of that to a place where they might have compassion or empathy or logic, whatever they could use. And they do it by telling stories. Stories about our kids playing with their kids. Stories about taking somebody to the hospital in the middle of the night. Just little acts of kindness. And these ladies successfully, maybe not the whole gang, all you got to do is the leader. You just got to get to the leader. And if you can get him, you know, during these times, I don't know if you saw the meme that says, make sure at Thanksgiving, make sure you talk about politics at Thanksgiving dinner. It'll save you money at Christmas. You understand, we get in a situation where it's so logical and so plain, why don't you see it? Well, our brain prioritizes your survival, and it prioritizes our community as a means of that survival. So when our community is under attack, basically that upstairs brain is not as accessible, or it's like really slow. You know what I mean? The access to it. And so this whole idea of understanding when I'm in upstairs, downstairs brain, a flight's canceled, I can go to the counter and go, you've really messed up my day. How am I going to get to Michigan now, huh? You guys, I can't believe. And I'm probably driving her or him deeper in their downstairs brain, farther away from an empathetic, logical, you know, creative solution. So this upstairs, this is huge for me. And in the case of Rwanda, the whole country has been at war for 3 years. So they're used to running to their downstairs brain. They're getting the message over the radio of scarcity and we're under attack. So when you have that message all the time, and that's what sells on the internet, right? That's what gets the clicks. Is usually what takes us to our downstairs brain. That gets the most money, that gets the most clicks, and the more practice we have at that, I mean, Tiger Woods, with all of his practice, it's just natural. He lives in that world of what to do with a golf club in his hands. But when we live in a world where we believe there's scarcity and we're under attack all the time, we will see enemies where there aren't, and we will see scarcity. What happened at the beginning of COVID, huh? Toilet paper. I don't have to tell you anymore, right? We all understand this at some level or another. So my wife and I, when Washington, D.C. sends the message that, that you have to leave, my wife and I will be like, yeah, we've got to get our family out of here. My mom and dad were actually visiting at the time. And, but they'll throw this curve at us. They'll say, yeah, you can bring your family, but don't bring any Rwandans. This young lady lived and worked in our home, huh? She loved on our kids. And when somebody loves on your kids, that's like fast track to family. And her ID card said Tutsi. The young man on the other side of the picture, he was the night watchman. His ID card said Tutsi. We didn't know more than 1 million people would be killed. I'm not even sure we knew that the UN soldiers would be leaving. But what we knew is we had been given privilege for years in different countries in Africa. Now might be the moment to use that privilege. So many times it made me uncomfortable, but now was the time. I'm ready to leverage that as most I can if it can save the life of this young lady. It's like they're telling us you can't take part of your family. That's the only way I can begin to hope people will understand. If they would have said, you know, if this young lady had been a visitor, and I mean visiting from home like my mom and dad, and for some weird, I don't even know reason, they said she can't leave, you would understand me staying with my sister, right? But when it's a different race and a different color and a different country, we have all of those different pathways in our mind. But for us, those pathways were taken away by the love and loyalty, kindness of this young lady who was no more an enemy than anyone else sitting around this room. And so my wife and I'll make the decision, not knowing it's going to last for 3 months, not knowing more than 1 million people be killed, that I'll stay and hopefully use that privilege and help this young lady and the young man survive. And they will. Now I'm mindful, and I appreciate that clock. If I'm reading it right, I have 5 minutes, right? Perfect, thank you, Mike. So this is what I'd like to do in the last 5 minutes. If you would like to dig deeper in that 3-month story of the genocide, we send out a 40-minute film to schools before I go speak there. So you just look at YouTube and you search "I'm Not Leaving," and you'll hear my wife's voice. You'll hear Gasikwa, a Rwandan man who was protecting people in his home, trying to when they came to kill him. These are just sketches from that 40-minute film. He offers his neighbors chickens. Instead of saying, you guys should be ashamed of yourself. You know these kids, they've been playing. What's wrong with you? Driving them deeper in their downstairs brain. He says, this is really hard times, huh, guys? Do you want to take some chickens home to your family tonight? And instead of leaving with the blood of innocent children, this guy, through his acts of kindness, has brought these men out of their... And maybe they weren't 100% convinced they wanted to kill in the first place. Anyway, you can get all of that story, if you'd like, in that little 40-minute film. My question right now is, my challenge right now is, after the Rwandan Patriotic Front, led by General Kagame, these refugee soldiers, you know, when the genocide started, they picked up their guns that they had laid down for the peace agreement. They picked up their guns, and they will drive the extremists out of power and out of the country. And it'll be their job to set up a new government in Rwanda. I always say it would be much easier if it would have been an earthquake or a tsunami that had killed all those people. There's one of my friends, he's a history teacher, he was doing a podcast I was listening to yesterday. He says, you know what's worse than the enemy from without? An enemy within. A betrayal of your pastor, your priest, your school teacher, your neighbor, your uncle. The betrayal ran across all lines. You know, some of the lines that held during the genocide were soccer teammates, huh? 4 years. You know, you look at your soccer teammates and you are not going to see an enemy. You have too much invested in those bonds. And it's like, how do you break those bonds? And that was the challenge of the planners of the genocide. Well, the challenge now is, how are we going to rebuild trust in this country? You can understand why they said, we need to empower women. We need women's intellect. We need their determination, their grit. We need their passion. We need their empathy. We need women to rebuild our country. So they put it right in their constitution. And they will set up community courts. We'll get into some more of this in detail if you make it this evening. So I'm kind of telling myself, it's okay, Carl. You don't have to get all of these pictures up there. But, and we'll even talk about Maria and Filbert this evening and how she builds new neural pathways. As she says, the turning point with this man who killed my husband's sons, I didn't want to see him when I got out of prison. When he got out of prison, huh? But he knew where my husband and sons were buried. That was the turning point for me and him. And she'll start to build all new neural pathways in her brain. And we'll talk about, NGF and all that powerful stuff this evening. But the courts, because I know many of you probably won't be able to make it, they will have more than 300, some say 400,000 people accused of genocide. Never in modern history have we tried to go after the ordinary, the rank and file. In the Holocaust, Cambodian genocide, the Khmer Rouge, in any of these atrocities, we try to at least get the leaders, or the mid-level, but the ordinary people, we can't. And take more than 100 years. And this little country, where are they going to have the resources to do that? They don't even have the lawyers or judges, much less the money for stationery and all of that. So they're going to take something they've been doing for hundreds of years, and they're going to adapt it to this situation. That little word on the bottom of the screen, GACACA, gachacha, it's when you would get the respected elders of the community together to help solve a problem. Well now, okay, sorry, I misspoke. The respected male elders of the community together to solve the problem. Not in the new Rwanda. At least a third of the 9 judges that you'll be picking will be, the president, we'll talk about him this evening too, but at least a third of the 9 judges in these community courts have to be women. This is an opportunity for somebody like Filbert to confess. It's an opportunity to people to find out, were my sons killed in the face of my husband, or did my husband see them get killed first? Something you wouldn't necessarily need to know in a regular justice system. We're going after the conviction. But in this model, we're going after healing. And people are learning the truth, and they're beginning to talk together again. This is not a slam dunk. This is open for exploitation. It's open for corruption. It's ordinary people. And the world said, what? You're giving ordinary people the job of rebuilding, doing these courts? You're going to have blood all over your hands like you've never seen before. But they said, no. Ordinary people were empowered to kill their neighbor. Ordinary people can be empowered to heal their neighbor. to heal their communities. And there'll be more than 12,000 of these courts in this tiny little country. You could probably fit 4 or 5 Rwandas in Michigan, huh? And over 10 years, they'll try more than 1.9 million cases. And these judges, ordinary people picked by the community, will decide, should this person go back to jail or are they safe to go into the repair? Remember that next level. Understand the harm. We can't unpack the harm without a strong community support, or we'll make it worse, the trauma and all of that. But with that community support, which they spent 6 years building in Rwanda before they started the courts, then we can begin to unpack the harm, and then how can we repair it, and what they're going to say in repairing it. And I can't skip over, justice rarely breaks the cycle of violence. So our top priority now is not justice. Our top priority is healing. Our top priority is breaking the cycle of violence. And they will send men out and women by the thousands in the countryside to reinvent themselves. You can't pay back for killing. I'm with high school kids talking to 40 men who've confessed I go there every summer. I forgot to tell you that. I get to go back a lot to Rwanda. Well, I'll end right here, huh? A high school girl says, let me get this straight. People who committed genocide get community service. It's like a slap on the wrist. And I'm like, boy, do I hear you. That is not fair. And fair is usually what justice is all about, right? But is the justice we practice breaking the cycle of violence? We need a new set of glasses. Sorry, the last picture is there for me. This new set of glasses, it's not, transactional glasses will not work in a transformative model. They will drive you crazy because it is not fair. Love that's not deserved is not fair, but love that's not deserved is one of the few things that can crack this cycle of violence, that can change. When I get caught, I want to figure out how not to get caught next time. But when love is involved in that, and I got some police stories too for that one, which we'll spare. So I really believe that we've got to lay aside in certain situations, not all, because this is a collaborative thing. If people don't want to, if it's adversarial, it won't work, okay? But if we can lay aside our transactional lens, and maybe just not because they deserve it, or even because I want it, but because I want it for my kids and my grandkids. And tonight, you won't get past 5 minutes without seeing my grandkids. Thanks. I ate into the Q&A time, didn't I? Thank you.
I'm
Ginny,
sure inspired.
you're the president. Thank you.
You're welcome. Questions, please.
I know, it's like I just fire hosed you all. And then it's like, do you have some questions?
Can you tell us just a little bit more about your presentation tonight, when and where and the time and all of that?
No. Alan? Alan, Anna, where is it? 6:30.
6:30 at the Sturris Center.
Sturris Center. That work? And we'll just go into more detail of what we did and unpack different stories. I met the leader of a killing squad by chance in 2015. It was one of the most horrible, angry moments of my life. I met him once again on purpose. This last summer, after 7 years, I met him again. And it was transformative for me. To get free from my transactional bitterness and anger, we'll try to unpack some of that tonight too as we talk about that man. And he's about to be released from prison in a couple of years. He and his gang killed more than 2,000 people. That just seems wrong to even say he's going to ever be released. But we'll try to unpack some of that.
Sir, you were talking about that the Hutus and the Tutsis and the Twa were liking and loving one another.
Yes.
But on August 6, 1994, the Hutus slaughtered the Tutsis because the Hutus comprise 84% of the 7 million population in Rwanda,
Right.
and only 14% of the Tutsis. And there was another tribal group which we call the Twa, which is only 1%.
Right.
So my question is, what motivated the Hutus to slaughter the Tutsis when they were loving and also
Right.
marrying one another?
Right, that's an excellent question. You know, the young lady and the young man in our house, they both did survive. After the genocide, she got married. and she married a man who had a Hutu ID card when almost all of her family was slaughtered by people with Hutu ID cards. And you would say to this young, I mean, I wouldn't say it, in fact, I had a sort of awkward conversation with one. We always spoke in French, so neither one of us our native tongue. But I'm just like, you know, Anita, so many people are inspired by you. And she's like, what, me? Why? I said, well, you know, Albert's ID card before her husband, before the genocide said Hutu, and then Hutus, all your family killed, and you married. They're people, it inspires them, and they're challenged by that. And she's like, well, Hutus didn't kill my family, extremists did. And that's a big deal for many people to understand, that there's a difference between that. And right now, today, you say Democrats did this or Republicans did that, and you find a vast majority of people of both parties who would not agree with the extremist views that are out there, but we begin to believe that is the view of the other. So I think it's really important to differentiate, and we didn't get into that in much detail, and we can more this evening, but that wasn't that wasn't Hutus killing Tutsis. But now, if I was to try real quick here, call a pie chart, okay? Why did somebody kill? Why did a Hutu change from a loving? Why did a Hutu married to a Tutsi with Tutsi children kill others? One slice of the pie, trying to explain it, could be he didn't want his family to be killed. That's going to be a different slice depending on who they are. Are you with them or are you against them? Another slice of the pie could be when we are in our downstairs brain, we are much more vulnerable to manipulation and to fear. Fear will take us to do things we never would have done before. Another slice of the pie would be obedience to authority. For years, we have been obeying authority. And the kid says, teenager, well, of course I did it. My uncle was doing it. My high school teacher was doing it. What'd you think? Of course I did it. And so this whole idea of a critical mass and what that means, there's just a lot to unpack. And I appreciate you taking us a little deeper in this, because that's where I hope, you know, we can go as we're introduced to the story. But those are just a few snapshots of what might actually kind of take somebody from a kind, generous person to a murderer. And actually, we'll talk about the neural pathways that we develop about the other that could have us do like that, and the neural pathways that Maria and Filbert developed to actually restore a relationship. And when I saw Filbert, I was so angry. I'm like, everything positive she said, I was discounting, because I thought later I discovered, subconsciously I believed that if you say something positive about somebody who's done something horrible, you're minimizing their crime or their accountability. And when I bring that to the conscious and write it, say it out loud, I'm like, no, that's not true. But when it's subconscious, it's influencing my thinking, my feelings, and my actions all the time. So there's a lot of pieces of the pie that would be subconscious, so to speak. So thanks for bringing that part.
We have an online question for you, Mr.
Oh,
Wilkins.
cool.
What example or precedent was available to the Rwandans to develop this process of healing instead of retribution?
Their own history. I mean, honestly, whether I put this, you know, the two comparisons, and I don't really like my drawings. I mean, I'm trying to always figure out how to explain it clear. I don't like just contrasting punitive with restorative, because there's certain transactional elements of punitive that we need in restorative, but it's just that punitive doesn't go far enough to break the cycle of violence. So I'm showing those two pyramids to a retired federal judge who lives next door to my brother in Arizona, and he's looking at those things and he's like, wow. You know, we often came into conflict with the reservations here in America when federal laws and reservation laws, which were founded on a more restorative model, were in conflict with our federal laws, which were on a punitive model. So I've been told this as I've dug into, I can look at the camera too for our online person. I've been told this as I've dug into restorative practices. They're always rooted in indigenous culture, indigenous practices, indigenous thinking. And so Rwanda really, they would look at the world, they'd look at South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation, and they'd study so many other models, but the heart and soul of their journey was in their own history, 400 years of this Gacaca process.
One more question.
What are the borders like?
The borders?
Yeah. I have a friend that's like 500 miles away in Africa right now, and he said that he's in a friendly, safe climate.
Well, borders are like, I mean, in many ways, they're like many other places. You know, you have a border control that you have to go through and everything on the road. All the roads are controlled and things of that nature. But Rwanda, you know, borders are often much more about relationships than the physical barriers we might put up there. What are the relationships between the countries? And Rwanda has really been working, I was just going to type in here, Kigali, just for you to kind of get the view of this, how this country is really surrounded by chaos and violence on most of its borders. As you zoom out and you look here, the DRC, which has many of the minerals that are in our cell phones, our tablets and everything today, the country's been torn apart by their minerals and stuff, is in chaos. Burundi to the south is experiencing its chaos. Uganda is kind of a long simmering chaos. My point is that there's like 7 refugee camps in Rwanda now. Rwanda has become a safe haven for people fleeing these other violence in the other countries. And so it's there. They've started and developed the East African Union, which is like kind of an EU of Africa, building relationships, especially with Uganda, Burundi, Tanzania, and Kenya. They now, you don't have to have a passport for Rwandans to get in, work in the next. They're trying to open up for the economy. They're really working on their relationships so that the borders are more easier to move through, so people can work, export ideas, technology, resources in the most efficient way possible. Because the border, many of you know who work in import-export, can be a nightmare. Rwanda's really working at streamlining. They understand the connection between having enough food on your table, your kids in school, and healthcare for your family, and lasting peace. And the last thing I'll say is they understand the connection between giving people a voice. When you have a voice, and I can tell you lots of stories of in their system, systemic approach to people having a voice, because when you feel heard, you're much less likely to turn to violence. So sort of hijacked your question at the last there, but thanks. Thank you very much, Ginny. Nice to be with you.
Thank you so much for trying to help us better understand and the enormity of the situation and what you're doing to make it better. To thank you today for your presentation, Carl, we are going to be making a donation to Hand Wash. Hand Wash is a cooperative initiative between Terra Nueva in Haiti and Champion Rotary District 6290 to provide clean water, sanitation, and hygiene in rural areas of Haiti. So more of your international reach at work. So thank you. Okay, this.
Mike, I forgot to put the website. If they wanted to learn more or connect with schools or things like that, Mike, if you would just switch over 1 minute, people can take a picture and we could connect. This is our little nonprofit.
Yes, we will also have this in our RIM, which is our newsletter, so no worries. A couple of places that they can see it, so thank you for that. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to be a little more upbeat and have birthdays. We have 3 birthdays to celebrate this week. Marty Farabee on February 15th, Jane Klingman Scott, February 16th, and Christy Pollock, February 21st. So remember, you have to pay $10 for the privilege of not hearing me sing. So that it's worth every penny. So thank you, and you support the Caring Connection. We're ready for our spotlight video this week. It features DJ Hilson.
My name is DJ Hilson. I have the honor and privilege to serve as the Muskegon County Prosecutor. I have a lovely wife of 26 years and 3 children. The ability to resolve conflicts in different ways is not I wouldn't say is a new phenomenon, but it certainly is a new way of thinking for a lot of folks. And for me, I've been involved in that movement, if you will, for quite some time. I sit on the board for mediation and restorative justice here locally, and I've been on that board now for, I believe, 6 years or so. I've been the president of that board for a period of time, and that's all about resolving conflict in a very peaceful and meaningful way. I also am involved with the mediation movement and restorative justice movement out of the Diocese of Grand Rapids. I sit on another council there, and we're in the process of trying to create a court rule that would allow judges across the state of Michigan to consider any mediation agreement that may be made between, in my case, a victim and offender. So victim offender mediation is, again, not a new concept, but it's one that a lot of folks don't realize really exists, or the power of what it means. And so those are two areas where I really have become heavily involved in this, what we'll say, alternative sentencing options in the criminal justice system. Muskegon County is very lucky to have as many folks as they do who really care about moving Muskegon County forward. And to just be a small part of that movement is really something very special.
We have no inductions today or Paul Harris Awards. I have a few announcements to make on behalf of others, but 4 of you are going to be making announcements. So Andy, Claire, Tim, and Meredith, and I forgot somebody? Yeah, no, I've got that. So if you guys could come up and get ready. We're going to start with a video about the chili cook-off. I have a message from Esther Rico, the organizer of that fun event you just saw, and she'd like me to share this with you. What a night. Good food, good friends and family, and some outstanding chili competitors. Who can ask for anything more? Winning. That is what we asked for. The competition was fierce but friendly, and our first place winner was Doug Brown. Stand up, take a bow, show your medal. With a smoked brisket chili. Our second place winner was Tresha Kidder, owner of the Valkyrie restaurant in North Muskegon, with a Southwest cactus chili. I understand there were no quills, so that helped. And third place went to Rena Mathis with her Spanish chili. Congratulations to our chili cook-off winners. So after finding out who won the competition, the next question is usually, how much did you make? We are in the final process of tallying some last-minute donations, but our total should be just shy of $7,000. What a difference those funds will make on the service trips this spring. On behalf of the entire Get Your Chili On Cook-Off Committee, I'd like to thank the Muskegon Rotary Club for their never-ending support, from making chili to buying tickets for sponsorships, both personal and professional, and the countless miscellaneous monetary donations we received. You were all a huge part in making this event a success. And for all those Rotarians that pitched in with setup, serving, and cleanup, your help was greatly appreciated. I hope you enjoyed working alongside your fellow Rotarians and our interactors and their families. To me, that is the best part about this event. Thanks so much for your support. So that was sponsored primarily by our Rewind Committee. So if you want to go and thank them in person, they are meeting this evening at 5:15 in Walker's here in the Delta. I wanted to remind you that the Braver Angels workshop is Skills for Bridging the Divide will take place on Friday, February 23rd between 8:30 and 11:30 at the Norton Shores Library in their large community room. And you have this on your table. This is from the Retention Committee, New Members Engagement and Retention Committee. There we go. It's a social event on Thursday, February 29th at the Heritage Museum of Business and Industry from 5 to 7 p.m. So we're going to go ladies first, gentlemen.
All right, you have 2 weeks left for Rotary Foundation tickets, the 50/50 raffle. So if you want your 50/50 raffle, see me this week, see Jenny next week. As we wrap this up, you could win a lot of money and support the Rotary Foundation.
Thank you. Ms. Ruth Benson.
Hello. I just have one more plea on behalf of the MHS, Muskegon High School Interact Club. Our blood drive is next Wednesday, the 21st, from 12 to 6. We are 20 appointments short of our goals still, and so I'm just really hoping if you are able to give blood and you haven't signed up yet, grab the link out of the rim. If you are not able to give blood and you can pass that link along to somebody who might be, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Andy.
Today is the deadline for reserving your tickets for The Glorious World of Crowns, Kinks, and Curls. That's the play that is currently on at our Muskegon Civic Theater across the street, run by my colleague Jason. A wonderful organization, if we do say so ourselves. Thank you. And so I encourage you, after this meeting, if you'd like to join us, go across the street and reserve your tickets, because they're going to release any tickets that are left from the Rotary block that was put on hold. It's going to be a really wonderful event. It's this Sunday at 3 p.m. And maybe we'll all go out to eat afterwards or something like that. And it's a play about the complex relationship that Black women have with their hair, the personal and political implications of it. So it should be really good, and you will know many of the people who are acting in it. So let's all go and cheer them on. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Tim, take it away.
Pores for Community. It's often referred to as PORS. Our Muskegon Rotary Foundation is hosting its third year of its series of happy hour events. We call it PORS because of the portion of our proceeds are from receiving $1 or $2 a pour for a special drink that we designated. Our goal this year is to raise $6,000, but your active participation this year can make it even greater. Our net proceeds are being used for our Muskegon Rotary charities, much like Party in the Park and Harvest Fest. Each year we make changes to PORS to mix things up and pique your interest, and this year is no exception. Oh, you are? Thank you so much, Mike. I don't know where to make the changes. Right now, okay. It's, as far as over the 2 previous years, we had participation fatigue with 7 events over 3.5 weeks. This year we are reducing our PORS 2024 to 4 evening events with a possible 5th event. And here's our lineup that's in front of us here. The first one will be Valkyrie at Four Corners in North Muskegon. It's going to be a trivia night, April 11, 6 to 9 p.m. With the popularity of trivia nights in West Michigan, the PORS committee said to itself, how about we try a trivia night? So we contacted Valkyrie in North Muskegon, and they were enthusiastic about it and said yes. By adding a trivia night on a Thursday night, they normally do a Tuesday night events. They are extremely generous to us in for this particular event. We will receive $2 a pour for this one for 3 different special designated drinks, a beer, a cider, and a mixed drink, which will be determined. And that's not all. They will be giving us 10% of all the food and drinks that we serve that night. The second one is Wonderland Distilling, which is Friday, April the 19th. It's a great event because they will make a special drink for us. Unruly Brewing is going to be Monday, April the 22nd. And our newest event location will be Kitchen 794. So thank you very much, and please participate. Get your trivia team together, and we're going to have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure, Tim, that'll be in the RIM too, information in the RIM too, so it was a lot to take in. But there's plenty going on, as you can see. So we are ready for that favorite moment of the meeting. It is the raffle. Josh, thank you for your patience. And what are we drawing for first? $20. $20 right off the bat.
084.
084.
084.
Oh, that's me. See, really, it's me. I was wondering why nobody was speaking up.
For $10, 152.
152 for $10. Oh, there we go. Congratulations, Steve. And your participation drawing for $5.
069.
069. Oh, Jackie. Yay, way to go. Next week's program will be a roundtable discussion and more information on membership. Marianne Gorman will be sharing lots of stuff that will be helpful to you. So we'll be here at the Delta. And now, if you'll rise, we'll recite the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Have a great week and go create some hope in the world. We are adjourned.